and record, and record, and record. Okay, so it's all edited, so if you need to think about something or restate something, it's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
so it's like definitely a no pressure interview.
This isn't Hitchcock with one take.
Right, right. Or if you're like, oh, I don't think we should tell that story.
Right.
And we can cut it out.
Okay.
Okay, what's the name of the town? Monte Rio?
Guerneville, Monte Rio, what?
What's the town we're in?
Oh, St. Helena.
St. Helena. St. Helena. Okay, cool. I do my little intro, even though this is edited, I always do my intro the same. Okay.
And do you want me to be looking at the camera, or looking at you, or looking at where?
Well, so you can just talk with me, but the camera that will be primarily used in the video is this one.
Okay.
So you can look at that.
Okay.
When you're telling a story or something.
Right. Okay.
So, and what's your when do you need to leave?
Probably by 11.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this won't last longer than an hour. I just needed to make
Okay.
sure you didn't need to be under half an hour or something.
Yeah.
Out of here by 9.
No, we can do that.
Okay.
We can do that.
Cool. All right. Let's see. All right. Record light is on over there. All right, everything's recording. So, all right. Wait, what's the name of it?
St. Helena.
St. Helena. St. Helena. All right. Well, good morning, St. Helena. Good morning, America. This is Justin at Seeking Context, speaking today with Garth Neil, who is a friend I met at Burning Man last year, and an internet pioneer, and a Burning Man enthusiast, and builder of the temple in 2022. So thanks very much for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess I just want to start out just a little bit about yourself. Can you tell me about your background and your life here in California?
Sure. I'm a 5th generation California native, born and raised right here in St. Helena. So I've got Cabernet in this arm and Chardonnay in that arm, I like to say. Had a career in the Silicon Valley, spent 15 years down that way, and raised a family in Marin. During that time, I met this wonderful woman, Memphis, back in the mid-90s, and 6-7 years ago we reconnected and just fell madly in love, and so that's how I'm back in St. Helena. Had a career in high tech, international sales of chips and computers and design and software. Also weaving through that, a career in construction. So everything from apprenticing with a cabinet maker to building homes and flipping houses, stuff
Really?
like that. Oh,
Cool.
Yeah. So no stranger to a saw and a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And also a career of sorts in the nonprofit world, helping nonprofits to figure out what really was their mission and how to expand that, either do more for the people that they're serving or serve more doing what they're doing. So I really had the honor to work with a bunch of people that do really good work that are mission driven. And then back in 2003, I was on the Burning Man site once again after many years of watching it from afar and thinking, damn, that looks fun. And the sign came up that said, buy ticket. Boom. And I bought that ticket and never looked back. So this was my 15th Burning Man this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you remember what attracted you at the first? What did you think Burning Man was?
Well, it wasn't suburbia, and that's where I was living. It was, great people, but it was having the same conversations. Pretty small world kind of options there, and I've always felt like not necessarily the black sheep of the family, more the psychedelic sheep of the family. Maybe, if there's a boundary, I want to know what's on the other side because that's probably where the interesting stuff is. Mm-hmm. And I think what attracted me was the freedom of expression, radical self-expression was really what, more than anything, attracted me to it. And I didn't really understand how fully that played out until I got up there. And then it took me a couple of years to really figure out how you then do it yourself. In the process, one of the things I got involved with was figured that Burning Man needed more of a water thing. It's a very yang event, right? It's burning man, dirt, like you struggle against nature. I thought, it really needs a yin balance here, and water could represent that. And how could we do that? And so, got involved with building a gray water recycling project for shower system, and offered it up to the heebie-jeebie healers, which is a long-time camp up there, 65 or so healers of various kinds of modalities, massage and acupuncture and energy work and all these really cool things.
That they do during the event.
That they do during the event, yeah. They do have that and a classroom tent, and between the two they serve about 1,000, 1,200 people, and about 600 or so, individual type of thing. So you can just sign up and come in and get a half-hour to hour massage or whatever, and it's the gift economy, so it's totally free, and it's this really sweet way to connect with people. And it introduced me to this concept of healing. And my dad was a doctor, my mom was a nurse, and so, it's like healing. So what do you mean by that in this context? And I kept hearing that all over Burning Man. We're going to have this workshop on, spiritual healing or sexual healing or energy healing or what relationship healing. And like, well, what is this healing thing? And I kept pushing on that. And finally I realized that what it really meant to this community anyway is this notion that we all come into life, and especially as adults, with all kinds of traumas that we have experienced of some sort. Things where the world has caused us to feel ill or bad about something or another, either physically or emotionally, sexually. And there's either shame or hurt or fear or literal, physical trauma. And it causes us to put up protections, and we keep layering on protections after each one of these things happens. And you can't go through the human experience without having, stuff happens, right? And as that happens, and you start protecting yourself more and more and more, you become less vulnerable, and you become more closed in. And it causes dysfunction in itself. It's like if you're too tightly bound up, you get neck aches and body aches, and you don't relate to the world, and the world doesn't want to relate to you because you're so closed in. And so therefore there's a process of unwinding that, and that's the healing. It's unwinding it in a way that is safe and protected for you, that and sometimes it's transformative in big, fast ways, that you come out of left field and all of a sudden you realize, oh wow, that doesn't work for me. And Burning Man really tests you on that. It's like that you're thrust into this environment that is really challenging, and when you're first coming up into it, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to hold on to all the ways in the default world that I can protect myself or relate to this. And then you get to Thursday and you're exhausted, and maybe you've done one too many different molecules, and you've been confronted by art that makes you really think about stuff, and people who really make you think about stuff, and that big windstorm comes up and it's like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. And that's when the opening appears. For so many people, it's like Wednesday or Thursday, we see it over and over. People come crawling into heebie-jeebie healers and other places and say, this isn't working for me, and they're in tears and they're exhausted, and you can just ask the question, what do you need to let go of? And it becomes a very cathartic opening. Sometimes it's full of tears, sometimes it's full of rage, and ultimately we get to a point of resolution on that and forgiveness, and then you come back to love. And you come back to loving yourself. And you come back to recognizing that that heart of your heart is pure love. And that's the healing that goes on. And that's what I became pretty dedicated to, trying to provide environments that people could return to their heart of hearts in a way that they could then let that out and be available to the rest of the community. Because when I can share at that level with you, it provides a safe space for you to share that with me. And for me, when that trust is built, when we can become vulnerable with each other as a result, that's when we can share our humanity at a real deep level. And that's the juiciness of being alive.
Yeah. Is that sentiment one of the things that attracted you to participate in being part of a temple?
Yeah. So I had volunteered kind of peripherally on several David Best temples, and certainly had used the temple as a repository of my grief and my love and my transformation many years. In 2005, I had 8 people who died that I was very close with. At least 7 out of 8. So the 7th was more of an acquaintance, but the others were best friends, and piano teacher, relatives. And it was overwhelming. And what could I do? And I just thought, we it's barely coping with one death, and all of a sudden there was another one, and then you kind of get through that, and there was another one, and I had that Scotch-Irish, keep a stiff upper lip, because you hold it together and be the rock and let everybody else fall around you. It's like, but I needed to fall too and fall apart. And then I got up there and just wrote and cried and celebrated and cried and wrote for about 2 days.
At the burn?
At the burn, at the temple.
Uh-huh.
It was really important. And I saw that others were doing their own version of that, whether it was with a person or a loved one or a pet who had died, or a marriage that was going on, or a fuck my addiction, or all these challenges, this humanity that was being exhibited on these walls, and poetry that was being written and brought, and these magnificent structures. And during the week, just layer after layer after layer on these beautiful pieces of architecture. And then we'd all, Saturday it was Burn the Man, and, it was supposed to be like Larry Harvey, all that bad luck that he had in 1986, lousy finances, problems with legal, divorce and all this stuff. Screw it all, put it on the man, and burn it up, right? So that's a cathartic release, and that's really, I think, what a lot of people still do, use the man for, in a way, as well as just sheer debauchery and revelry. But on Sunday, it's a very different burn. It's different than all the others, because you get 60, 70,000 people gathered around it, and they become more and more quiet as the moment approaches, and when it is lit, it goes completely silent. And it stays silent for 45 minutes or an hour until the thing burns down to a point where it's safe for people to come up to it. And I don't know any other event in the world where you, other than maybe some major Buddhist retreats or something, where you have that many people that silent, reflecting on the depth of their humanity. I've done perimeter burn guard duty, basically, what they call, I don't know, some other name, I'm sure, but
Temple
basically,
Guardian?
it's not Temple Guardian, but that too. But it's where the people that are turned around and are watching, the rangers that are watching the audience. What we're really watching for is people who might break out and try to be a runner and try to run into the flames and emoliate themselves. But it provides a beautiful vantage point to see all this emotion coming up through people in their faces. Everybody's got a story, and often multiple stories that are going on during that 45-minute or an hour time period. And the love that they're projecting, and the hurt and the anger and the release, and all this memories and everything that they're projecting into that burning building, with all of the memorials that were written in there and all the art that was left in there. It's really a beautiful and profound experience. And then to see that beautiful building going up in a beautiful fire, and it burns differently than all the other fires. It's got a quality of a burn that is unique up there. It doesn't have the big billowy dark smoke that some of them have. It doesn't have the varied flames that the others have. It has this kind of purer flame. Maybe I'm imagining it, but it seems to be more resplendent in a way.
Mm.
And yes, it has the smoke, and the smoke goes off and travels into the night air, into the ethos. And it's such a wonderful representation of impermanence. You know, it's accumulation of the impermanence that is Burning Man. I mean, there's nothing there August 1st, and there's nothing there October 1st. In between, it becomes the fourth largest city in Nevada. And then it's gone. And so, holding on to things that, it makes you question, how much should we hold on? How much should we bring? How much should we use? How much, and what's time to let go? Mm-hmm. And so it becomes this amazing, probably overuse that word, but it is, experience, and can be such a transformative experience for the people that experience the temple. I mean, there's people that come in that let go of all these good things, and people that embrace good things. And there's people that go into deep meditation that maybe for the first time cross into that transformational space of, through meditation or prayer or whatever, or the psychedelic experience, that puts them into that non-ordinary state of consciousness where they can actually commune with the ineffable, whatever they call that. It's that experience of pure, limitless, timeless, unconditional love.
Yeah, some would say that's reality.
Exactly. That is the ultimate reality. I think it's that reality and that mindset, and people have lots of names for it. Don't need to go into them, but it's hard to name it because once there are philosophers that say it's that which is, and that which is not, and that which is neither that which is and is not. It's in my mind, that love is where our consciousness was, the state that it was in before we were born, before we were conceived. It's what powers us through this journey of being a human being. Mm-hmm. And the other living things around us in all their forms. And it's the state to which we return when these meat bags no longer serve us. It's, I've had a couple of profound experiences in my life, and one of them convinces me that that is at least the truth that I see it. And if that's the truth, I'm not afraid to die. Right? I'm not ready to die. I got a lot of projects I want to get done first. I got a lot of this experience that I want to really fully, squeeze every drop of juice out before I go. But I'm not afraid to die, because I think that state of being is beyond words wonderful.
How did you get involved with Empyrean?
Well, we were looking for a camp to participate with Burning Man. Memphis really felt strongly that she wanted to get involved with an art project, and I thought, yeah, that's a good thing. We also missed out on the main sale of tickets, and so we were looking for other ways to, that's an avenue to get a ticket.
The practical
purpose. Transactional purpose. So, for me, that was one of my truths was it was a little transactional at first, but as I got to know the project, I became deeply attached to it, and attached for a number of reasons. One, I thought it was a beautiful piece of art, and it'd be cool to make a big piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
Second is it appealed to the little builder inside, and so it's like, okay, in fact, I was working all week in construction doing stuff, and then coming out on the weekend and doing construction. So it was like, for a couple of months there, it was nonstop construction, but fun, I like the people that it attracts, and certainly have deep respect for Renzo. And I knew that I was part of a team that was building this container for 80,000 people to potentially have a very transformative experience, a healing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, with every cut I make, with every screw I screw, with every assembly that I move around, everything that I do up here, then I want the motivation to be healing and in that love,
mm-hmm.
And so that it's as filled with that energy, to get woo-woo, I guess, but intention, to fill it with intention,
mm-hmm.
So that it may be the most magnificent vessel for transformation that could possibly be up there this year. And I knew it was important because we hadn't had Burning Man for 2 years prior, and there was a lot of people who took off the planet because of COVID and just the normal ways of life. There were a lot of relationships which had cratered because of COVID, either not being able to be together or being forced to be together, and all of the things that changed and jobs that were lost, and et cetera, et cetera. So there was a lot of healing work to be done up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it held a very, very, very important role for the community.
Right.
And I love this community. I mean, I've been playing with it since 2003, and have met so many wonderful, wonderful people, great friends, and wanted to make sure that they had a temple that was up to their standard.
Mm-hmm.
They're such quality people. I wanted such a quality temple to honor them in their process.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you were building panels and building the structure over in Santa Rosa, right?
Right. We started
months beforehand.
Yeah, we showed up at the meet and greet on April 2nd, and I was up there every weekend, 2 and 3 days a weekend. And so a lot of it was cutting. So there was 3 or 4 of us that did the vast majority of cutting for all the panels. Mm-hmm. Another set of folks who were cutting beams and assembling those. And then I shifted once we had everything pretty well cut. shifted to assembling panels and coordinating the layout and the cuts and the repairs of the panels, because they all started out 4x8, but then every edge is the panels around the edge all had to be cut differently. You know, because it's not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's this.
Right, because the canopies sort of
Canopies
they're not a rectangle themselves.
Not at all.
Right.
I mean, even the base, it doesn't start at the base and go up.
Right, it was a little bit of an angle.
The base is at a rake. The going up to the peak, that vertical is at an angle, and the ridge line is at an angle. So you had all of those that had to be, and sometimes a couple of them inside from that had to be cut and then re-screwed together so they'd hold up against 70-mile-an-hour winds. So it was a big job out there. And so I was there, and you know, a lot of it was a job. You know, it was serious work, and we had a good team that kept showing up. And lots of people came in for a weekend or two or whatever, and a core of about a dozen or so that showed up on a very regular basis. And I was happy and proud to be part of that crew. Yeah.
And when you went out to the event, your role shifted a bit, and you were running the camp, or like creating the infrastructure. And what was all going on in the background that those of us, I just showed up and there was a camp and a kitchen. And so what was all of the other things that you had to do to pull this whole thing off?
Yeah, well, in June, kind of mid-June, the person who was originally going to be coordinating the camp and doing all that stuff, I guess over the prior couple of months had receded from her participation with it, and then finally quit. And that left Renzo without somebody to really focus on running the camp itself. He's a builder, and so he was running the job site, and with TreeJ also, and the tools and all that. I mean, you know, he had the job site covered. But we had 100 people out there that needed to be housed and fed and watered and cleaned and protected and all those kinds of things, and fuel to be delivered, et cetera, et cetera. So he asked if I would take on that role and not run the kitchen, but everything else having to do with making the camp run. And I've had leadership experience in larger camps, like heebie-jeebies. I was part of that leadership team and infrastructure team for many, many years. So no stranger to what the challenges that you get in the desert and what it takes to get that going. I learned a lot. I mean, this is the involvement by the Burning Man organization was much bigger than what I've had experienced in the past. And so part of it was learning how to work with the Borg. Peter Platzgummer and Gloria were just phenomenal. They and their teams, Petals as well. Those folks, and I know additional members of their teams, were really, really instrumental in helping us out and got us out of some pickles that, because of no fault of anybody's, we found ourselves in. So there was learning how to work with them. There was planning for 50 RVs and 50 people in tents. And being in a tent in that environment, you can get whacked really hard. And if you're up there for a month, which a lot of our team got up there on the 10th or so of August and didn't leave until the 8th of September, that's a long time to be in that environment. It can kill you, definitely, and certainly wear down your body in a big way. So we came up with tents to protect them, because it wasn't clear that the TPG folks had what we needed for overstructures that people could put their tents in. that provided protection from the wind, protection from the sun. We had some big windstorms, and it ripped off the lids on some of them, and we had to, find ways to hold it down and make sure that it was safe, and then also repair them time and time again. I had to come up with layouts for the camp so that it would work logistically for everybody as they arrived and as they left. Create community while they were there. Have fire lanes that are required, and passageway for pumper trucks and all that kind of stuff that come through, from delivering fuel or taking away gray water, delivering water and all that stuff. Excuse me. And also had some help from Laylee Wallace. She was really helpful. She was on my team, and she actually did the layout for the city camp. Came up with a brilliant way to do these cul-de-sacs and all, and I think that helped provide little neighborhoods within this large camp. That was cool. Then there was figuring out how much water do we need and where do we get it and who's going to supply that. And originally the Burning Man organization was going to supply us with as much water as we needed and just refill and refill. Well, it turned out that they had more demand for water because of the nature of the year. It was much drier and much dustier, and so people were taking more showers and all that stuff. Not just in our camp, but across the whole place. And so they underestimated how much they needed to supply. And then they had some mechanical problems. And so I had to go back and find 500 gallons of water every other day and do a deal with another outside vendor and make sure that they showed up, and then kind of coordinate, and I don't know, there's just all this back and forth with just keeping water there so that people had it to drink.
And this is going on midweek.
Midweek, absolutely. And so that the kitchen could run and wash dishes, and so that people could get clean, with showers, so that the temple could get built. So it was like highly leveraged of my talent working with other talented folks to make this happen, so that it was really as seamless as possible and as comfortable as possible within the limits, so that the builders like you could get out and build and have the energy and the water necessary to keep your body temples going, so that you can build the Imperian temple. We had this.
Can we edit here?
Yeah.
Great.
Sure.
I need you to move your truck so I can get out.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It could just be real quick. You could park right on the street, or you could pull back in front of me into the driveway, or
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Sorry about that. I should have thought about that before we started.
No, it's totally okay. Bye, love. The quiche is in the oven.
Oh,
It takes
great.
35 minutes. Do you want me to hit the button right now?
Sure, that'd be great. Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, but it's not recording.
It's not?
No.
You didn't turn it off.
Yeah, you did. You hit pause, I think.
I don't think so.
Oh, actually, no. Hi, Mom.
Okay, love you. Bye.
I love you too.
Okay, so where were we?
We were delivering water. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
dealing with water. Okay. And on the flip side of dealing water is dealing with gray water, right?
Mhm.
And so We had a kitchen setup that was feeding 100 people. It generates a lot of gray water and food waste and stuff like that. And we had these great showers that the TPG folks put together, but they didn't know really how much people were really going to use. And anyway, there was a lot of gray water that came out there, and so you can't spill that stuff out onto the desert. It's just a big no-no to.
Right. And it was too much for an evaporation
Yeah, they didn't.
pond.
Well, there was kind of two thoughts. People were resisting doing an evaporation pond, and I succumbed to that, out of groupthink. But in the future, I would definitely reroute that into an evap pond rather than dumping into the gray water. It would have been cheaper and just as effective. And occasionally, you may have to pump out of that into the gray water tank if you have way too much. But we could do a whole nother hour segment on a gray water recycling system, which I put together for heebie-jeebies. I have a system that could do 150 showers a day and use 4 gallons of water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
but somebody has to tend it. Anyway, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. And then there was power. So, the kitchen needs power, the refrigerator truck needs power. Unfortunately, it had its own, and so I didn't have to do much for it. But every one of the RVs has air conditioner, and they all want to run theirs. And then there's the general lights and that kind of stuff that you got to keep on. And we had originally, what we wanted to do was reduce our footprint, our carbon footprint. And we thought the best way to do that was to rent a big 100 kVA, 125 kVA generator, and then plug in all the RVs into that, and the kitchen and the tools that need, power tools and all that. And that was the original plan. And so we got the unit up there, and we had all those miles of cable, and we were stringing all that out in distribution, and we had everybody just ready to go. And it was a brand new unit, and there were complications around that, and we ended up having to jettison and return that unit and the cables. And
that was like right when
right at the start.
At the start.
Right at the start, yeah.
Big stumbling block.
Big stumbling block. And everybody, because we told them they were going to have power, nobody was bringing up gas for their generators.
Right. So it's compounded.
It's compounded. So, fortunately, the organization was able to reach out to, it's called the RAT team. They do sustainable power and stuff like that, and they had a bunch of extra solar power and battery systems. So we benefited by their generosity, and they came out with a couple. So that helped us to at least run the kitchen and the general camp lights. Both when we were in the desert next to the temple, and then when we moved into city camp, we had 2 of those units back there. So that was great, and it was a really nice alternative. They held up really well. But then when people were done building, they come back to camp. They wanted to run their AC, and so now we have all these 5-gallon cans of gas, and they're just getting sucked down. And the only way to refill up there is to drive 5 at a time per vehicle out to this place called Hell, which is the petrol station, the fuel station, way out beyond the 930 spoke. And you have to get there, you have to wait in line for the people in front of you, and then you can pick up propane and refill those. And we had one camper who had propane generators going and ran them 24/7, and fortunately was providing Wi-Fi to the camp, which was important for a lot of reasons, and was doing a lot of other things that was kind of critical for, and provided an air conditioning relief for sure if somebody had a heat stroke. So it was wise to spend the time and energy there. But then you had to get out of line, get back into line behind the next guy, and go get your diesel fuel if you needed that. And some, a lot of the trucks were running on diesel and the like, and some of the generators. And then you had to get back in line for gasoline and fill them up 5 gallons at a time, put them in, and away you go. So that became almost a daily chore for me, and then Memphis helped out several times, and she went as well. Or we both went, to try to reduce having to. But, it took up an inordinate amount of time, because you can only go 5 miles an hour across the, through the city. 5 miles out and 5 miles back. You had to wait in line a couple hours. It just took up a half a day at least just to do one hell run.
Well, everyone else is out enjoying Burning Man.
Yeah, especially during the event. Yeah, yeah. And then you come back and you got to deal with that. Oh, then now I got to go deal with water. Oh, now I got to deal with gray water and run down those boats. Oh, now the tents are falling down. Oh, now we got more campers than we expected. We got to put up an additional tent. And on and on. And in the meantime, there's also this trying to establish a sense of community and a sense of camaraderie and a sense of of cohesion with the group. There were several of us that were trying in our own way to do that. Mm-hmm. And we did have the benefit of having the central kitchen and people coming together for meals, but that was a good time to do that. The burn barrel that was set up and the chairs around it, that was also important. We also we didn't have any couches when we started this. There's no lounge space. Mm-hmm. That was protected in under the canopy, so I went around and Memphis and I found a couple of couches and a couple of easy chairs and some extra rugs and things like that, and brought all that up to make sure that there was a place for people just to crash and chill out and enjoy.
So that space wasn't planned before the event?
It was a exercise in late July, early August,
okay.
And I ran around the Bay Area getting free stuff off of Craigslist, and then ran it up in my trailer and came back down and came up with another run, and provided music for the kitchen and the dining area, and 2 big speakers, so that kept the kitchen crew happy and a sense of levity and joy while they're cooking.
Yeah.
Running extension cords, and people would run pirate extension cords, and it's like, no, you can't do that because we're running down the batteries too fast, and managing the powers. So it was all this behind the scenes stuff, and trying to do that as seamlessly as possible, so that everybody could have a wonderful burn.
Were you able to enjoy Burning Man this year?
There were a few moments where I could enjoy Burning Man this year. I was able to get out at night, several nights. Some nights were just too exhausted to get out. There were some really fun nights. I got out to Opnon Temple, and Mayan Warrior, and what was the other one that was there? Anyway, there were some times that were just pretty spectacular. I missed a vast majority of the art that was up there. I missed all of the workshops and experiential things that were going on during the daytime programming. I missed connecting with folks that I know and love in other camps, like the Heebie-Jeebies and the Shaman Dome folks and Bumblepuss and some of the others that that's when I get to see them.
Right.
Because they live in New York or Philadelphia or Beirut or Paris, and just didn't have, and they're not there during the night, they're out exploring, so if I ran into them, I did run into a few, that was really nice, really sweet. But, yeah, it was very much a working experience.
Right. Do you feel like you learned anything new this year by going through that as opposed to a regular enjoy the burn experience?
I learned what I said before I started this. I'm never again am I going to do this kind of a thing. I felt like the dad who puts together this great play structure for his kids, and then the kids, he shows how to climb up the stairs to the slide, and they go down the slide and they go, whoa, that was great, and they have this rush, and it's like, yeah, this is fun, Daddy. And you see that, you experience that vicariously, but it's, you're not experiencing that. And that's quite frankly one of the reasons that I love going to Burning Man, because I'm looking for that kind of experience. I'm looking for something that rattles my brain and opens my heart that much further. And really didn't have that experience. So what did I learn? I learned some more about construction that I didn't know. And that was good. I learned a lot about how the org works and who makes stuff happen and how to work with them, and have tremendous appreciation there. I also learned a lot about the dysfunction, and all organizations have it, and they've got their brand. Got a little bit more understanding of that. On the physical side of it, on the job of doing something like this, I guess I learned that what I really needed was to have a dedicated crew that came up just specifically for infrastructure, like Memphis had, who came up specifically for kitchen, and like what Renzo had that came up specifically to build. It's bigger than a one-man job. It's really like a 3-person job to really run all that and do it well. There were some things that were a little rough around their edges that could have been much better. I mean, the camp was okay, but the aesthetics of the camp I wasn't pleased with. And that I would have done much more differently. I mean, and that was partially because some of the people that were involved setting up the camp came at it from a place of lack, and I come at it from a place of abundance, right? They come up from this is just how we do it, and we're scrappers, and we want to look like, junkyard dog scrappers. That's their persona, and that's what they're comfortable with. And I come at it from, this is an art event, and why can't your space, I'm a builder, I build houses and backyards and places and buildings that are aesthetically pleasing that people can really feel good in, right? And that's what I would like the living space to be when I go into a camp. Even though, granted, we're in the middle of a big dusty desert, you look around and there's some gorgeous camps that are out there.
Yeah.
The temple has a unique challenge in that it's a different set of people every year. There may be a few people that come through, but by and large, out of 100 people, 90 of them, this will be the first or maybe second time that they've been involved with temple. So you don't have the year-over-year build-up of, this year we're going to trick out the kitchen, and next year we're going to trick out the living space, and next year we're going to trick out some other piece of it. And so by the time 3 or 4 years comes around, you've got this gorgeous, luscious, wonderful place to go hang out. You're still at Burning Man, but it's sweet, and that's what I would like to see, because I think there's such a gift when people spend a month in the desert to build this thing, and they're putting their bodies through it. They're putting their life on hold in the default world to do this. They're putting their revenue generating capacity on hold, and they're spending a lot of money to be there. Why not have an experience for them, a camping experience that is really sweet?
Yeah.
Right? And that when the rest of the world walks by, they go, oh, that's the temple crew. Check that out. Someday I want to be on that crew.
Right.
That's a cool place to hang out. And inviting for people to come step in and hang out with us. Yeah.
Right. But it sounds like after your experience being the infrastructure guy, you might want to have a year of being the enjoy Burning Man guy.
Yeah, it's not, I do not want to have anything to do with infrastructure this year. Yes, I know how to do it, but no, I do not want to do it. Yeah, it's not like, this is my calling, I'll be your
How about how was your experience at this year's temple burn?
Oh, magic. Magic. The I went in on Saturday night after they burned the man because that was the first time I had a window of time to inscribe memorials to people in my life that had died. And I had 15 people to honor in that process. Now, 3 of which were kind of a little distant, but the other 12 were people that are really meaningful in my life. And so I had a couple of hours to reflect upon that, and maybe not go as deep as I have in years past with each one. But, it was a challenge in a wonderful way to find space to inscribe their names, because the walls inside and out were covered.
Right.
Covered.
This is the end of the event.
It was the end of the event, and 80,000 people had something to say about somebody
Yeah.
out there. And it was just beautiful. It was exceptional. You know, and they had, you know, the guy on the piano and the silent disco, headsets, And at first I thought, what's this? And oh my God, it was so tastefully done. No, it wasn't unka music finally. It was tastefully done. It wasn't sappy, it wasn't Hallmark cardish. It was genuine and sweet. And there were people praying, there were people meditating, people just milling about, and people taking it in and processing in whatever the way. There was people crying, and people just in awe. In this beautiful, magnificent, amazing structure. Powerful. And so I felt wholeness and completeness at the end of that. I had to reach up as high as I could reach to find open wood. Yeah. And I walked away saying, okay, we've done our job. It's time. And Sunday night, walked out there, joined the rest of the temple builder crew. We kind of had that front row seat there at the 6 o'clock. Portal, between the man and the temple. And I watched as Memphis and George, and Rachel, and Chris with the K, and Renzo lit the thing on fire. And it's such a sacred moment. And the flame started, and everybody went silent. And my thoughts are, yes, this is the right thing to do. This is the way that we honor the dead. This is the way that we let go of that which no longer serves us. This is the way that we recognize our own impermanence. This is the way that we realize that art itself is transitory, but meaningful. A couple days earlier, I'd been out on the way to the temple, and there was a drone show that appeared up behind it. And it had some color, some shapes or something, and then caught my attention, and then it started this beautiful poem. It said, You are enough. 1,000 times enough.
The drums.
The drums.
Spelled this in the sky.
Spelled it out.
Really?
1,000 times enough. You are mud. You are dirt made of dust and stars. Make art. Art endures. It outlasts kingdoms. Come on. Let's get drunk, darling, and paint the universe.
Wow.
And I thought of that poem and I thought, all these glowing embers and ashes and particles of smoke are now going out to paint the universe. I thought, we did good. This is right. This is why. This is why I come to Burning Man. This is why I built this temple. This is the moment.
Well, Garth, thanks for sharing your experience
Yeah.
and for all of your dedication
Yeah.
and for building a beautiful temple.
It was a real honor. It was a real honor. And I'm humbled by what happened. Amazed that it all went together and magically happened when a lot of forces were up against it. I'm amazed at Memphis's ability to generate and acquire the money necessary to fund it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed at Renzo's perseverance over 3 years. That his beautiful mind created the thing, and he had the fortitude to last through it and pull together an amazing team to build it. Really honored to be part of that team. Yeah.
We do.
It's the only temple that I could find, or any reference of, that is built to be open for a week and burned. That's, how many structures are built to be burned other than little things or effigies or, a Hollywood set? But to have a temple, that's something special. So thank you for the opportunity to tell the story.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Garth. Cool. You're a good storyteller.
Well, I kind of get verklempt in the middle of it, but that's my truth too.